Hi all, welcome back. This is part 2 of week 9. We are diving into our content for this week, which is focused on summarizing the results for your student, evaluating strengths and needs, and primarily scoring the QRI-5, which was given last week, which is a great measure of oral reading fluency as well as comprehension. So we have 3 main session objectives. The first is to be able to explain various reading profiles using measures of decoding, fluency, and comprehension. And we're going to be taking a look at the 2 articles for this week in order to do that. Be able to score and analyze the following components of the QRI-5: prior knowledge, oral reading, fluency, retell, and comprehension. And lastly, you should be able to summarize and report results for your student. So let's take a look at results, strengths, and needs, starting with the first article from the Journal of Adolescence and Adult Literacy titled, "I'm Not Stupid." I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with the cartoon Animaniacs, but they had a little snippet which was good idea, bad idea, so I thought I would apply that to information communicated in this article and came up with the following. Bad idea: using state test scores to make decisions for intervention and remediation. Good idea: using diagnostics to gather more information about the student than making intervention decisions using that diagnostic data. So this article definitely knocks down the use of state assessments to plan interventions because they don't give you the rich information that diagnostics would give. So the researchers conducted 5 diagnostic assessments on 4 different students, and the QRI was actually one of them. All the students were below grade level. However, none of them were missing phonics or decoding skills. And that's interesting because a lot of times when you hear a student is reading below grade level, you automatically assume they need phonics or decoding skills, which might not be the case. So the implications of this study were to not treat literacy as a hierarchy of skills. Remember, it's a holistic process. Where you immediately turn to phonics and phonemic awareness when students are underperforming. You cannot have a one-size-fits-all approach. You really need to look at each student's unique needs and plan accordingly, which is the whole purpose of this class, is to have a process for determining student needs and developing a clinical approach where you would give assessments to diagnose areas where intervention is needed. So the authors of this article have a 5-step process, which I feel is very teacher or literacy specialist friendly and a great process for planning intervention. The first step is to use a baseline assessment to first determine who is below grade level. So you need to pinpoint who is below grade level before you can do step 2, which is to conduct a series of reading assessments to those below grade level to determine individual needs. And it's very important to include an informal reading inventory since it is a great measure of reading in context. You can see oral reading behaviors as well as see comprehension. So it's a more authentic assessment than reading words in isolation or performance on a multiple choice test. Thirdly, you would group students according to results, and we're going to do a little practice with that in week 11, where you are going to look at all of the students' results from all of our clinicians in this semester, and then going to practice grouping students. Then you're going to have the students set literacy goals and include them in monitoring their growth. And this is essentially what you would be doing, is identifying the biggest area of need and developing a goal, a SMART goal that's specific, measurable, etc., to help them achieve what they need to achieve and monitor. that goal. And then lastly, you would involve all the teachers in steps 2 through 4. So you have cohesive instruction, and they are very aware of what you are working on with the student, and they're very aware of what your assessment results are showing. One of the biggest challenges of an RTI program is making sure that there is strong communication between intervention teachers and classroom teachers, as well as with parents. So I like that this process incorporates the importance of that communication. All right, the second article you're reading, and I'm going to do a very gross oversimplification of this article, which is why you should still read it and use it to apply to your student data, is what struggling readers really need. And in this article, they completed an in-depth analysis of 108 students that scored below proficient on the grade 4 state test. However, they found that all students do not fit into just one profile, but actually one of 6 profiles based on strengths and challenges in the areas of fluency, word recognition, and comprehension. So what this means is they were able to see, oh, these students are, word callers. They have strong fluency in word recognition, but very poor comprehension. Or, we have students that are slow comprehenders, or students that are poor in all 3 of these areas. So that's what you should be doing as you analyze your QRI results. See how your student does with fluency, how they do with word recognition and automaticity, and then how and accuracy, and how they do with comprehension, and see if you can identify the profile that they might fit into. So the first profile is automatic word callers. They decode words quickly and accurately, but fail to read for meaning, so they lack that comprehension piece. They would benefit from comprehension instruction, modeling and think alouds of key strategies, and they might even be reading so fast that they can't process what they are reading and just need to slow down. The second profile is struggling word callers. These students struggle with word identification and have very minimal word attack strategies. They benefit from teacher or peer read-alouds, lots of experience with independent reading at their level, small group instruction, and activities focused on words. So these students really need more phonics instruction and word attack strategies. Then we have the word stumbler, which sounds similar to our struggling word callers, but they actually have more developed phonics skills. So they have substantial difficulty with word identification, but actually have strong comprehension. They need systematic instruction in word identification, but beyond the early stages of reading, they would benefit from decoding skills. So they actually have more proficiency with word attack than our struggling word callers, but comprehension is an issue for them. And they use assisted and unassisted reading materials at their instructional level. Next, we have the slow comprehenders. They're a strong decoder, but lacking in comprehension. However, upon further investigation, their rate is what is impeding their comprehension. So their fluency is subpar. So they have issues with fluency and comprehension. So they need help with multisyllabic words typically because they have the basics down. They need fluency building exercises like repeated oral reading, partner reading, and reader's theater. The fifth profile are the slow word callers. They have difficulty with both comprehension and fluency. They scored at the 7th grade reading level reading words in isolation, but it's set at the 2nd grade level for the QRI. So they have difficulty with individual word meanings and text-based understandings. And these are the students who typically scored at a level 1 on the state test, but who can actually decode, as evidenced by the fact that they are reading 7th grade level words in isolation, but are not too sure what those words actually mean, which is inhibiting their comprehension. Last profile are disabled readers, and they have difficulty in all three areas: word identification, meaning, and fluency. This actually only encompassed 9% of the entire sample, but were overrepresented in intervention groups. They need intensive systematic word identification, aka sight words and phonics. So the bottom line is that simply administering more and more assessments and recording the scores will miss the point. Instead, the value of in-depth classroom assessment comes from teachers' deep understanding of reading processes and instruction, thinking diagnostically, and using the information on an ongoing basis to inform instruction. And so you see why this course is so essential, because that is exactly what you're doing, administering assessments in all the domains of reading, as well as really doing an in-depth analysis of the reading processes and instruction so that you can think critically about what you're going to do for instruction. All right, so definitely read those two articles. They've got some great information in them, and they will hopefully prepare you well to analyze and think critically about your student and their profile as a reader. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started with talking about the QRI-5 and scoring and analyzing the results of that assessment, which you should have given last week. So we already talked a little bit about assessing prior knowledge. There are two ways to do that on the QRI. One is via the concept questions. And here's the scoring scale for that. I'll show you an example in a minute. And then you want to look for a score of 55% or better, because it was found that students who typically score 55% or better on prior knowledge get 70% of the comprehension done. So you might be wasting your time if you start a passage and they have less than 55% familiarity with it, because it's looking like they may not do as well on the comprehension. The second way to assess prior knowledge is with predictions. You want to look for two or more idea statements that sum up many of the main ideas contained in the selection. So here's my example. It's pre-primer 3. Lost and Found is the name of the passage. I asked my student, what does it mean when someone is lost? She says, you're lost when you can't find your family. So that would be an example, so I gave her a 2 for that. What does it mean when something is found? She says, you found your family and you're back together. That is also an example, so I gave her a 2. For both of these, you're looking for them to really explain the concept of lost. You know, something is lost when it is missing. You are unable to find it. Something is found when perhaps it started out missing, and then after you conducted a search, someone found it, so it's no longer lost. So you really want them to explain the concept here. A lot of times they will give you examples, so that would be a score of 2. And then here we have, what does looking for something mean to you? When you're looking for something, you need, I was looking for a paper. So again, another example there. So overall, 246 out of 9, 66%. So she is above 55 and is familiar with this concept. Next, I asked her about the prediction, what she thinks this might be about, and she said looking for something special, which is one idea of the instead of 2. So I think that predictions might be something for her to work on, given my analysis of that. All right, I'm going to stop here and upload this and then jump into discussing how to record and analyze oral miscues.